Thank you very much. Good afternoon, members, officer colleagues, and the dozens of members of the public. Welcome to this Grants Committee meeting, 25th of September 2024. My name's Joseph Hales, I'm the chair of the Grants Committee, and my colleague, Councillor Ellington, is the vice chair. If I can ask anyone joining us remotely to ensure that their cameras and microphones remain off, but in this occasion, since it's an officer colleague, please leave it on. For those who are present in the room, make sure your microphone is off when you finish talking, please. No red lights. Thank you very much. Okie dokie. Apologies for absence, please.
Thank you, Chair. One apology for absence from Councillor Peter Sanford today, and Councillor John Williams, our lead Cabinet Member for Resources, isn't with us either.
Thank you very much. And number two, to my councillor colleagues, any declarations of interest with any of the items on the agenda? Councillor Handley.
Chair, you'll note that when it comes to the Wising case, I did write a letter of support. Now, I don't know that that makes much difference or any difference at all here, but I just wanted to make sure, draw your attention to that, that's all.
Do you have any personal financial involvement?
None whatsoever.
No problem then, I don't think. Anybody else, that's fine. Thank you very much. Where is he? Oh, I see. Welcome, Pete.
Thank you, Jose.
You feeling better?
Yeah, but I'm still testing positive. I don't want to spread it around the council chamber, so I won't wish it on you guys.
You're positive because you're not normally, so that's great. All right, thank you.
Thank you, mate. I'll talk to you later.
Oh, love it. Right, okay, that was one off the cuff. Right, okay, minutes from the last meeting. Go through the normal process. Just sing out if you've got a problem with the pages. So that'd be page 1 or page 3 on the agenda, and page 2. I think, okay, can I sign those off as a true record? Thank you very much. Right, public questions. Agenda item number 4.
No public questions received today, Chair.
It's very disappointing, really. I was like all these people that watch every month, you'd think that someone would have a question. Perhaps we could lobby.
Possibly.
Thanks. Right, okay. Agenda item number 5. So now we're on to the officer involvement, which is fabulous. So we're going to hand over for the community chest grant to Catherine. If you could take it away, Catherine. Thank you very much. And thank you for attending the meeting. It's really nice of you. Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you. So you have your usual monthly report here for applications to the community chest, and the Appendix A, which covers the applications. There's just the one this month. You've got an application from the Bones Trust. They're actually an applicant that has applied before for the same event, same time last year, and they're looking for £500 towards various equipment and arrangements they need to make the race happen, which is a fundraising event with largely Cambridgeshire, South Cambridgeshire residents taking part from the villages that are listed in the application summary just there. So I will assume that you've read the detail there, and it's really over to you to say whether you would like to fund the £500 or any element thereof.
Thanks, Catherine. Colleagues, as Catherine said, this came up last year, and we funded it last year. It seems to be a pretty good cause, to be fair. So, Councillor Hanley?
I mean, it's a relatively small sum, but obviously Kickstart's a much bigger community thing. So I'm in favour. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Hamraj.
Absolutely in favour.
Councillor Ellington?
I think it's a really good cause and we should support it.
Thank you very much. Then I can take that as affirmation. Then that we're a go with that one. So thank you, Catherine. That'll be a yes.
Thank you.
And
Perfect.
That's it.
And that concludes my contribution.
Concludes the results from Sunset. Oh, well, thank you ever so much. And we'll allow you to pack up and go get back home and what have you, start working again. So that's really kind of you. Thank you so much. Oh God.
You're welcome.
I am so going to get killed. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Okay, oh, I'm pushing my luck. Right, okay. Item number 6, which is the Rural England Prosperity Fund grant applications. That's Catherine. Thanks, Catherine.
Thank you, Chair. Just as a reminder, we opened the Rural England Prosperity Fund for applications in April of this year. If you remember, we did bring the first round of applications to committee at the end of July, beginning of August last month. This is some of the remaining applications. We have 7 remaining applications. Some of these took a little bit longer. We were waiting for planning permission, for example, and we had some open inquiries on these as well. But actually, as it turns out, actually it was quite good because it's actually put all our kind of bigger projects. So a lot of these, I know having read the report, you'll see a lot of them have come in for applications for about £100,000. At this stage, it's probably worth noting that that has actually oversubscribed the fund, which I think was positive because, again, this has been such a quick turnaround project. So we've had to have to make some decisions and put forward obviously recommendations on some of the projects for a bit of reduced funding, but we believe that actually these projects will still be able to be carried forward with that and just give it a little bit of an equal opportunity for everybody applying. So I'll just quickly run through some of the applications. So the first one comes in from Camborne Town Council. So they applied for £100,000 and we put forward a recommendation to fund them £90,000. And this will be a contribution towards a project which involves a purchasing of a large cabin that will be used for the Scout movement as well as the men's shed. The building will also be open to other community groups during the day. As you may be aware, that Camborne is quite short on community space. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, colleagues, I think we go through these one at a time if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are fairly chunky lumps of money, so I think we ought to give them their fair due. Colleagues, anyone got any comments on this? Councillor Ellington?
I was expecting the one for Patworth to come first, so I'm catching up. But I think this is very worthwhile. The provision for a large town, and it gets larger. We really need more community space for particularly our young, the Scouts and Brownies and all the others, and particularly a men's shed, because then us women can get rid of them for a bit. And they really are beneficial for helping with the mental health issues which are predominant at the moment. So I very much support it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Raj?
I support it because it helps young people. It's a nice project and it's nice to see a community coming together to think of these things. So I support it.
Thank you. Councillor?
Yeah, I agree to this. I completely concur with Councillors Ellington and Hans Raj. Of course, Camborne is, as Catherine said, is relatively short of community facilities. So, yeah, absolutely in favour.
Thank you. They're not getting the full amount, are they? They're 10 grand short, I think. Yeah. I imagine that the parish council is, or somehow is going to be able to make up the shortfall.
Yes, we have had a conversation with the person who put in the proposal. So they've got a little bit of leeway, not a lot, an awful lot of leeway, but they would be able to fund that through Section 106, for example. The project has been there for quite a while as the land was originally allocated. So it's opposite the allotment. So it's kind of one of the projects that they've had sitting around for quite a while, wanting to kind of get off the ground.
Okay, well, I think I'll lend my support to this as well. So I think that's unanimous, so thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll move on to our second project on my list. I apologise, Sue, if I'm going out of order, but we're looking at Wising Arts Centre. So they have come in and asked for £98,000. We're putting forward a recommendation of £80,000, and this will fund site improvements, mostly footpaths around the site. Wising Arts Centre is well known for its art culture. We don't have much art and culture space available in South Cambridgeshire, and I think a big part of this project is actually making it accessible for all. And again, it's part of a much wider project. And again, lots of art installations will be going around on the footpaths as well. So again, another really great project. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Colleagues? Councillor Hanley?
Yeah, as I put in my supporting email, I became aware of Wising when I was the Cabinet Member for Communities, and visited it and spoke with people. I was very impressed by the place, and I think if you haven't been, go have a look. It's doing a lot of great work. What they're applying for is worthwhile supporting, in my opinion, and it's not too far away from Camborne, so it gives that town another aspect of community work and so on, and particularly arts and culture. So absolutely support it.
Thank you. Councillor Emerson?
I think I agree with you entirely, Bill, but I think the other factor is that with Bourne Airfield being developed, there's another big source of people who would benefit from having that close. So apart from anything else, just the walking around it would be really good. So I support it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Rausch, got any?
I can't add to any of that. I support the project.
Thank you very much. That's another unanimous then. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you very much, Chair. Right, moving on to our next project, which is Cottingham Community Centre. So they've come in asking £38,000, and we are recommending to fund them the whole amount of £38,000. Again, it's a project to make significant improvements to a critical community asset, and a lot of those improvements, as well as improving the community space, will also provide significant improvements to the greening of the building as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Catherine. Colleagues, Councillor Evington?
I was at a conference there only last week, and it's a really, really pleasant building. But the sun was shining at the time, and clearly this area is not as insulated as it might be. So I think the eco element of this provision is the key message here, and a real asset to a relatively large community in Cottenham, which has also got a large number of new houses being built. So I support.
Councillor Rausch, thank you.
So Cottenham has a very good community spirit, and they hold a lot of functions in that hall, and I think it is well worth keeping that going for the community, and therefore I agree with this project.
Thank you. Councillor Handler?
Very quickly, I'm also been very struck by the green credentials of this, because the people who run the community centre at Cottenham are very switched on to green issues. So it's good that we can support them.
Excellent. Again, I'm very much in support myself, so that's another unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Right, next on our list is...
sorry, Catherine. No, Councillor Rausch. Beg your pardon, sorry.
I'm sorry, I see this application for the netball at for Histon and Impington. I'm councillor for Histon and Impington, and I know what's been going on with this. So am I exempt from speaking?
Only if you've got any kind of financial or personal interest, but you'd have to declare. But right, if you just written a letter of support like everybody else would normally do in your work.
Martin Khan has written.
Say again?
Councillor Khan has written the letter.
Yeah, that's
I
fine.
haven't been asked.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Thank you.
Carry on.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, apologies, I've realised that we're a bit out of sync, but I've got Alia
Only a little.
next on.
We're all getting Sue's going through RSI. Keep doing this on her iPad. I've got my fingers going bonkers. Right?
We'll make a note for next time.
Sunita's just not bothered. She's not moving at all.
At least I've read them, so I know they're there somewhere.
We know they're there, don't we? Yeah. But don't worry though, Catherine. Must be something in the name today. I reckon Catherine's listening at home now. She's going, oh, here we go.
Right, Alia. So Alia have come in to us asking for £75,000. We are making a recommendation to fund them £32,555, and this is to cover the costs of AV equipment, PV panels and CCTV at the new co-working cafe, which is part of the new social enterprise that is being built in Papworth. The reason we have gone in lower on this is, again, we've had conversations with them. They are heavily funded by the CPCA for the project. And again, this application is to improve and just make better what the offering will already be. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So, colleagues, supportive statement. This is on page 31 of the agenda from local representatives. Councillor Howell makes the point that he and Councillor Sanford visited. Councillor Sanford has got his own comments, that's fine, he's the second of those two entries. Councillor Howell makes a point and essentially a request. Before we go on to discuss, I just wonder if it's probably worth asking officers if they have an opinion, and obviously ask Councillor Sanford if he has an opinion of the same ilk as Councillor Howell. But would you be able to expand on this for us?
Yes, absolutely. So again, Councillor John Williams also did raise this in terms of if we provide the funding and they purchase the solar panels, etc., if the project does not work out or Alia sell the building, what happens to it? But there is an agreement with county that the building would be sold back to the parish council should the project not be successful. And as part of that agreement, we will write a grant funding agreement as we do per all our applications, and that is a legal deed. And as part of that, we will ensure that anything that is purchased through this grant scheme remains with the building.
That's good. So that I think probably answers Councillor Howell's concerns
about what would happen.
Before I go to colleagues, just what you just said there, would it be possible to write actually both members, like Councillor Sanford as well as Howell, with what you've just said?
Yeah,
I know that
absolutely.
Councillor Sanford just heard it, but if they're both treated equally, then both get told that there's the assurance that's what's going to happen. Yeah. And hopefully that will allay any fears that he has there, which is great. Pete, do you want to add anything to what's been said with regards to what Catherine's just been talking about?
Yeah, a couple of things. Thanks, Jose. Alia are not going to run the Printworks operation themselves. They've already got an agreement with the proprietors of the Courtyard Cafe in the centre of Papworth, who are going to lease it from them, which is where Councillor Howell in particular was getting concerned that if the lessees move on, they might take some of this expensive kit with them. So yeah, if officers can write something watertight to say that all the the monitors and the microbrewery and everything stay with the building regardless, that's fine. Councillor Howell and I did meet with the ALIA project manager, and he wasn't too concerned at the thought his bid might get cut down. If you look at the list, there's a lot of nice to haves there, not all of which are essential to the, should you say, the financial running of the building. It'll manage quite happily without a podcasting studio, I suspect, but it's down to those guys to trim their sails accordingly. So, but yeah, you got my support in writing for this one. Thank you, Jose. I can turn back to you.
Thank you very much. So, colleagues in the room, who's going to go first? Councillor Handy?
I think given the reassurances we've just heard, because that was a concern when I was reading it through, sounds as though we've got it taped.
Councillor Raj?
I have nothing to add. I'm glad. I hope it goes ahead.
Thank you. Councillor Hinton?
When I was a nurse and worked at Papworth, I used to pass these buildings, and the nurses that I worked with at Papworth had been patients or relatives of patients that had been moved into Papworth, which provided care for TB patients from all over the country. And so most of the houses in Papworth, and the people, when they got better, were told that they could work in the printing works, or they could do printing or leather works, and provision was made for them to work after their illness had made them debilitated. And I really think this is taking that philosophy back to the village, and I really would support it. The ward sister I worked with said, they said I could be a printer or I could be a nurse, so I came to be a nurse. She hasn't really got much nursing tendencies, but never mind.
That actually is a really lovely story as it goes. That's got a real heart to that. I just wonder whether, you've got that on recording now, I just wonder whether that could be sent to the people developing and finishing off the site, if you like, the objet d'art. I'm sure you can pick up a few.
I can jump in. I can jump in there. One of the conversations, and it was Mark Howell that brought it up, is Alia will have a little corner for memorabilia and pictures and all the what you say, the memories of Papworth Hospital, and I'm sure we can put Councillor Ellington in touch with the right people and get her memories captured. Just out of curiosity, you might like to know that during the Second World War, it was working full-time printing maps and other documents for the military. So it's all part of the war effort.
Got a very poignant historical. It just ties everything together neatly, as you were just saying. I think it's really lovely. So yeah, I mean, I'm very much in agreement too. So I think again, it's a unanimous, lovely. But if those bits could be sent out to Mark and Pete, that'd be great. Just the assurances of how the contract will be set up, and then perhaps a suggestion to those who have made the application that this was discussed today. If they want to look back over this, then fine, and then Sue can point them in the right direction as well, and Pete, because he's got that side of the WW2. So.
Absolutely, Chair. And on that point, as part of the grant funding agreement, is that each applicant agrees to do some sort of form of comms. So I think that would be a really lovely comms piece to do, and something for South Cambs Magazine, even potentially to link it up.
That's lovely. I'll go.
I think one of the things that I loved about Papworth was that all the people were ex-patients, as it were. But they all told us that they'd been made to smoke cigarettes because it helped to bring the phlegm up off their chest when they've got TB. And they'd all been put in little huts round the pond, and made to have the doors open so they got plenty of fresh air. Really good for them it was. And some of them lived.
Some of them. That's great. Oh, sorry. This tickled me. Right, that's a unanimous. Can you carry on, please, Catherine?
Thank you, Chair. Right, moving on to our next application, comes from a business, Jack's Gelato. You might have remembered we bought this in the first round of applications. Jack has an ice cream business. If you remember, he asked for £100,000 for a specialised waffle cone making machine. I think after last committee, there was discussion around the cost of the specialised piece of equipment. So the officers, we have since then spoken to the applicant, and there are other models available on the market which he could explore. Hence, we are looking at a proposal or recommendation to fund him £40,000. Again, he has quite significant match funding. So again, it could either be part contribution to a more expensive waffle cone machine, or he could purchase kind of the 40,000 mark waffle machine.
That's what I was just going to ask. Basically making a 40 grand contribution to something he's choosing. It's going to go towards a machine to make cones, not do something else with it. But that's the undertaking of the contract, yeah. Okay, lovely. Colleagues.
This was the one we deferred because of the business plan, I think.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
So are we happy with that now?
Yes,
Yes.
His business model is to expand the business. So through this, he will be creating extra jobs and safeguarding jobs. He's got quite a relatively new property, a business site. So again, it's part of the expansion. And I think we do need to remember that as part of rural, it is also about supporting local businesses and the expansion of businesses. And again, this is one way for him to streamline his business model, improve his product. And again, that it goes back to the basis of the Rural England Prosperity Fund.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? Okay, well, I think, speak on our behalf, and thank you very much to you guys for going back to this particular application and getting a few T's crossed and I's dotted. That's really significant. Thank you very much. Is there any more on that?
We've got two more.
Two more, beg your pardon, yeah, because
You have to find them.
yeah, we were doing the 100 application. Yeah, okay, carry on,
The
Catherine.
application.
So did we have a vote on
We
Jack's
did,
Gelato?
unanimous.
Okay, thank you. Right, so next we've got Impington Sports Centre. They want to improve their tennis and netball courts. They have come in to us for a grant application of £100,000. For this project, we're recommending a £53,000 contribution towards the total cost of the project. They have had some slight issues with planning permission in terms of getting floodlights for the courts. However, they can proceed with just the resurfacing of the court centre. So this is what we would be funding.
Thanks. I had a few comments, questions, if you like, observations perhaps. It was on page 44, right at the top, where it says, despite a successful application, financial losses of around 650,000 during 1920-2021 financial years caused by COVID closures and a slow industry recovery. My heart has to question that date line, because COVID didn't hit until March 20. So, and that was the 23rd we went into lockdown, if I recall. So you only got a week left of that financial year if you're looking at financial years. So did the majority of the 650 loss come in the COVID year? They don't talk about much in the following, because in 21 we had another lockdown, and what we say, it really wasn't until 22 when things started to really kind of pick up again, people's confidence about going back out and things reopening. They've been very honest, and I'm grateful for the honesty, but it's a nag, that one, that it's not our money. This is the rural England's money, and whatever, wherever they get it from is whatever. I'll hand the floor to my colleagues. Perhaps Councillor Hanraj, because you said earlier about being part or being understanding some of this, could you elaborate perhaps?
It's difficult, this one, because it's controversial. Not just for the floodlights parking, it's a big controversy. I think it's controversial. It's going to come to planning, is my understanding.
So it hasn't come to planning yet, Catherine?
No, they've had a neighborhood meeting, and they agreed to it, but then there's residents who don't agree. So it's controversial. Sorry, did you?
Sorry, Chair, I was just going to say the parking issue we weren't aware of. So again, we have spoken to the planning officers and the applicant, and again, it was very much the focus on the lighting aspect, which, you know, they can still resurface with or without the lighting. They could still, obviously it wouldn't be able to be used for the length of time, but in terms of just the resurfacing, they could go ahead and do that. But again, maybe it's something we need to take away and have a look at the parking aspect if we think it's going to be a bigger issue.
Councillor Raj.
I think there was also an issue about noise. I mean, netball courts with a whistle every 10 minutes and such like, and I think it goes on into the, I find myself in a difficult situation, but I have to tell you what is what, you know.
Chair, we are happy to take that away and find out further information. So, Stephen.
I can just add a couple of things. I believe what happened was it was closed in 2018 following a Sports England review for the quality of the courts was not, the courts weren't very good, so they closed, I believe they closed the courts out at that stage. The funding was going to be given to them by, I think it was Sports England, and then because of COVID it didn't happen and the funding was lost. So that's why they had a significant loss of income, because that money was going to be used to resurface. So they basically used their own money instead of the Sports England money that they were going to have. The objections on the planning application for the floodlighting was from exactly what you said about the neighbours. So the solution to that was they can do it during the daytime only, as Catherine's already said, but not in the evening time. But that would have a loss of small income for the evening time. So long-term plan, they'd like to do the evening classes. But I believe the courts is the main thing, is that the resurfacing was of such poor quality before they just had to close it. So this is to help them get the surface back to a playable position so that all these clubs and facilities can be used again by people in the area.
Thank you, Stephen. I'll come back to Sunita in a second. I think we are looking potentially to go back and have another chat to make sure all the T's and I's are crossed and dotted and what have you. Don't want to put mockers on this completely at all, far from it. But on that page 44, where Stephen was explaining the 2018, it does say it was closed in 2018, It would be really helpful if what you just said there was written there, because it gives a perfect example of why. And then the next paragraph, swap those two over to say, actually, and then we never recovered from that properly, and then we had COVID, which then was even worse, and then we are where we are, which now resulted in a a massive loss of the 650. However, we think blah, blah, blah. We find this a lot, don't we, with people making applications that they're very truthful, but they might as well put the rope around their neck. Like, oh, right, you need the information to say, hey, look, this is what it is. It's all fact, but there's a way out. And I think at the moment, reading now, I'd go, you're having a laugh, right? Yeah? So, Councillor Hanley.
Okay. Well, I was going to say that Sunita was first, but my view of this is, you know, I get all of the concerns, but what these people are asking for is money to make the courts usable again. Without it, they can't even use them in the day. And that seems to me a reasonable thing to ask for. 53,000 isn't a huge sum for sports equipment, let me tell you. So I would be in favour of supporting this actually, and then it will give them a playable surface where they can then build other facilities onto it.
Councillor Hanley, I do apologise for jumping.
The thing is, yes, I'm all for young people and sport and such like, and I think they're planning evening sessions as well. Last weekend, the community put strings and things around the path where people were parking. Now this actually requires a change in people's behavior, because they will not stop obstructive parking, although there is parking there. So the community put up signs and tried to police it, so that this isn't the way it's done, unless there are some safeguards guarding parking. So thanks.
Thank you.
I suppose my point before you raised yours was that these courts have been basically not functioning since 2018. Do they and the various groups that played on them appear to have found other accommodation and other support places. Do we believe that if they regenerate these courts, they will return to being used in the same way as they were before 2018 when they closed and when they lost their licence from the authority?
Thanks, good point. Okay, hear what you said, Bill. Catherine, I note on the application it just says the word none for the parish council. I would lay my life on it that the parish council have an opinion, one way or the other. I would perhaps value, they're the people on the ground who need to, they're the first port of call for people's angst, if you like, if something's going on in their patch, so probably it would be handy if we could have something from them. You mentioned planning, so has planning been approved, or is it still to come to planning?
Yes, Chair. I heard this morning that they are going to put it to planning, but the parish council have commented, they've had the meeting and they've approved it. However, there's still objections.
So locally, the group have gone back to the parish and said we're going to go and put this through planning at SCDC. So the parish has said, yeah, we'll support it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think they are. Yeah, I read
Okay,
this.
that's fine.
Yeah.
So it's still got to run the process of here, anyway, for the district planners. Right? So they're the ones who sign it off. So that's that. Sorry, I keep pressing the button there.
So just,
yeah. Parking issues is going to be a huge one by the sound of it, and if you weren't aware of that, it would perhaps be worth. I think from our point of view, we need to make sure that we've crossed and we've looked at all the different aspects of what people have reported or said. At least we can show that we've gone down the road of looking at it, asking the questions and what have you. If there are any solutions that we might be able to help and offer. And as Sunita just said, the community attitude, if you want to call it, is, I wouldn't say toxic, but it's certainly fragile. Right? And that may need some help. I don't think we should dump this completely. Come back to you. I think we should perhaps, how much time do you think our officers would need to do this?
Couple of weeks, do you think? I think the key objective for us is that we know that we've got to get these funds out the door because of the tight time frames.
When?
So, well, the money needs to be spent by the 31st of March next year. So I do have slight concerns about delaying it a month, but I do wonder if we could do confirmation over email. I'm not sure.
As I was going to say, so I was thinking, if this could come to the next meeting, would that be out of scope? Would there still be enough time for things to happen?
I believe the planning is obviously current at the moment, and the planning, I've been looking at the planning most days to see if when the objections come in or any comments come in, I've been looking at those each time and trying to make a note, mentioning the parking, there was talk of the trees, there was talk of floodlights, so the planning is only for the floodlight part only, so that's the separate issue to the actual surfacing of this particular request, so they just want money for the resurfacing only. But the parking issue that's associated with that is something that is mentioned in the planning along with the floodlights. So that's going to be addressed in the planning side of it. So that answer might not come. I don't have the date of the final cut off of the planning with me, but I will search while we're talking, because there will be an end date on the planning of when it's got to be decided. So we will have a decision date. Once that date's reached for the floodlights, that might help answer some questions. But whether we can get some answers in the meantime, I don't know.
Come to you, Councillor Hadley. I'm just thinking, just talking out loud, depends when the application went in and whether they class this as domestic or commercial. Because it's community-based, it might come under the 8 weeks for planning rather than the 13 weeks. So no, Bill.
I think that all the things about planning, Steve's more or less said what I was going to say, actually. It's a red herring as far as we're concerned. What we're asked to do is to approve funding of 53,000 to actually repair and renew what's there. It's nothing new. It's just making good what's fallen into disrepair. If we were faced with a grant application for the creation of a netball tennis surface, I think would be unanimous pretty quickly, because it's the kind of thing we should be supporting for communities. So I think this thing about the parking and everything else is immaterial for our discussions, and I think we should approve it.
So just on timelines, it might be worth thinking about how the powers of this committee within the Constitution, because now that the committee has considered it, if you did have questions that you wanted satisfied, I'm sure colleagues could take them away, get answers, but we wouldn't necessarily have to bring it back to committee. I'm sure that we could consult members of the committee outside, but ultimately it's our lead cabinet member for resources making this decision of the advice given in this committee. Does that help?
To be honest, I think we will understand our remit as well as this advisory, and that's fine. But I think residents have made a noise, right, that they didn't want something, or they were concerned about whether they didn't want it, they were concerned about the impact. Right? So if we discuss that impact, and I appreciate your point with regards to planning, it's the lights, and that's fine, Bill, but the parking is an issue, whether it's relevant to this or not. I think it is relevant, to be fair. So I take your point, right, and I agree with that. So I think our comments have been fairly well noted, right? I believe we need to do this. We need to say that there are concerns. So the lead member for finance says, well, actually, am I going to go down this road and do something which is whatever? But just let him. He has the information then from us, or at least the committee itself. So, okay.
Chair, if we were to say no to grant, or even cast doubt on grant applications because of a hoo-ha made by neighbours every time, we can't get involved with that. I don't think we should get involved with that. This is a matter for the parish council and for community groups. It's nothing to do with the grants committee. The grants committee has been asked to look at the matter that's in front of us is 53,000 to replace and renew, and I think that's where we should stop thinking. We should just say, yep, we need to do this. If there are problems with neighbours and parking and all of that needs to be resolved elsewhere, not here.
I would agree with you wholeheartedly, except this is the first time in my entire tenure that we've had an issue around a grant application. This is the first one. I was trying to rack my brains as if anything else has caused any kind of angst, and it hasn't. Most places seem to have on-site parking, or a community centre has some parking, or a play area has parking close to it, and it hasn't caused this. So I appreciate your point. And I'm quite happy to go with what Lawrence's suggestion was, that we go through this process with officers and they can advise us of the outcome from that. But I just wanted to make sure that our voices and our concerns were registered, so that the lead member for finance has that knowledge, if you like, that he may not have had. So we've drawn out a few things here now, so I think that's right and proper. Okay, so if it's okay with Councillor Hanraj.
So I agree with Councillor Hanley. However, I look at if they start resurfacing this with money from the grants that the council's giving out, the residents are going to think, oh yeah, this is one step forward and we haven't been heard. Now, the planning, they want to an implementation of a traffic management. They want to have communication with residents and the liaison group. That's what they want. I can see what point Bill Henley is making. I mean, Councillor Henley.
I know we're not. I know, but just saying we need to speak. That's what we're here for. Okay, right. So, with your blessing, colleagues, that we'll go down the road of what Lawrence suggested, and officers and what have you. So, do you want to reiterate that for us, Lawrence?
Yeah. So my understanding is there are a few outstanding issues that we just want some clarity on, but given those are satisfied, it's a general sentiment of support from the committee.
Yes.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you.
Would you mind if I just added one more little thing? So on the planning application for the floodlights, which is a separate entity, there's a letter from the Highways Department, which I will just read the first paragraph. It says, following the review of the documents provided by the Highway Authority as part of the above planning application, no significant adverse effect upon the public highway should result from this proposal, should it gain benefit of planning permission. This application for the same thing was approved in 2020, and the permission has just expired. Use of the netball court already exists. This application seeks the installation of lighting columns and floodlights to allow the extended hours of operation in the evening. So the Highways Authority were comfortable in 2020 with it, and they're comfortable again with it in 2024, as far as the highways side of things.
Brilliant. So when officers come to your final decision, could you please make sure that all of these, even though it's in a document somewhere, lift it and stick it back into the decision process, if you like, as information already approved, and this is just a renewal of that information, that approval. People need to be able to read. It's always the same. A lot of people just go, I don't like that, and they don't read what's happened before, right? So perhaps some people don't even realise it's been approved already, but we just need to state the obvious. So that would be okay. So thank you. Your light's still on, Steve. That's a yes. That's a yes, but over to you, Catherine.
Oh, sorry,
right?
Chair.
That's a yes from all of us, but it's over to you, as Lawrence suggested.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Next one then.
Right, and I think this is our final application. So we are, we've had an application from Willow Grange Farm. So again, another small local business. They have come in asking for £100,000. We're putting forward a recommendation to fund them £50,000 towards the costs of solar panels, heat recovery system and automatic doors to allow this business to expand operations and drive energy efficiency. So they've just opened a farm shop, which again will create new jobs, and again as part of the Rural England Prosperity Fund, support those farm businesses, which is quite key to this fund. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Colleagues, any comments on this one? Councillor Hanley?
I would say this is four square with our business ideals at this council. Accessibility and solar panel heat recovery, absolutely. So yes.
Thank you. Anybody else? No, Councillor Raj?
That's one thing I love about Cambridge farms and farm shops and cafes. So it's a yes for me.
There speaks a convert, that's great. Okay, that's fabulous. So again, we're all in agreement with that one, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Does that conclude the offering from the rural, whatever it is, grant? The name of the title.
Can I just confirm that the committee is happy with the proposed splits to funding laid out in the report?
Yes.
Excellent,
Thank you.
thank you.
So on that one, thank you very much for all the work you're doing on that and the work that we're just giving you to carry on with. So apologies for that, but like I say, thank you very much. It's much appreciated what you do. Okay, who's doing the next one?
Is today.
Yeah, if you still have mics.
What I'll do first of all, I'll just introduce it, shall I? Right, so it's agenda item number 7, which is improving the High Street grant scheme. So is that over to Carly?
Yes.
Carly, thank you, Carly.
Yes, thank you. I am just going to share my screen. Okay, perfect. Sorry. Thank you. Okay, so today we are presenting to you a new grant scheme that we are launching called the Improving the High Streets Grant. So we wanted to bring it to this committee today to just give you an overview of the grant, its proposals, what's involved, and what it's going to look like when we launch it next month. So the overview of the grant is that we will be providing £200,000 worth of funding to help support the improvement of the local high street. The project aims to improve the aesthetics of our high streets, promote rejuvenation and encourage residents to shop locally, attracting more businesses to the area. Very similar to rural England, this is funded by the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Combined Authority as part of UK SPF funding. With this scheme, grants of between £5,000 and £20,000 per project can be applied for, and this will be applied. Applications will be open to local businesses, community groups, and parish councils across South Cambridgeshire. The project must be located on the front elevation and/or within the high street of South Cambridgeshire, within the villages and within the towns of our authority. With this scheme, unlike rural England, there is no match funding requirement. However, projects that do have that match funding contribution will be welcomed. The funding will be available from October, when we launch the scheme, until March 2025. Again, all funding must be spent by the 31st of March 2025. So a definition of a high street. We all think of a typical classical high street as the destination where people go to visit to shop, eat, drink, and classically what you would call as retail. With Ordnance Survey data, it defines a high street as a minimum of 15 retail addresses within 150 metres of each other. In South Cambridgeshire, as you know, we don't have that many high streets that technically fall within that definition of high streets, except for Histon, Stapleford, Sawston. So, high streets that fall out of this term are referred to as neighbourhood shopping areas. And due to the rural demographic of South Cambridgeshire, the majority of our villages consist of neighbourhood shopping areas. Each application will be viewed and judgments made on the following statement. Is the place, which is the heart of the community, where you are likely to find amenities such as local businesses, transport, community buildings, village greens? So types of projects that the grant can support are not limited to, but we have a list here of different things that we can support. So we've got general repairs, reinstatement of guttering and pipe work, painting, decorating signage, lighting, window displays, as well as things externally. So street art, sculptures, benches, parklets, hanging baskets, greening, things that are really going to bring a really lovely aesthetic to the high streets once again, or improve what's already there. We're also looking at things like family-friendly schemes, high street safaris, and augmented reality interactive trails to encourage footfall to the area. Other things that can be applied for are events, pop-up opportunities, cleaning, hardboard maps, and improving bus shelters. So, not limiting to, but projects could look like this. So bright, vibrant areas that will bring back a lot of footfall to some of our potentially deprived high streets and just give them a rejuvenation once again to be a vibrant place that we all live and work and want them to be. So, when the scheme is launched next month, the first application window is closed. The information will be reviewed for its suitability, and applicants that meet the criteria of the grant scheme will be assessed by a scoring panel using a matrix system to evaluate the following: the project aims and objectives, design and delivery model, how the project will have a positive and lasting impact on the rejuvenation of the high street, the project's financial case, mitigations and risks of the project, and also its social values and steps the project takes towards achieving net carbon zero, and steps to make it as inclusive as possible. We have carried out due diligence on the scheme itself, and on the applications received we will include further due diligence of fraud checks, in carrying out checks on the applications, ensuring that the businesses are registered and they operate within the South Cambridgeshire area. We have been working with the fraud team, audit team, our comms team, and different teams in governance, just to make sure that everything has been followed, all the processes have been followed, and we've been working with the other teams to ensure that everything is as it should be to launch the scheme. All going well. All going well. The application scheme will become live on the website from next month. The scheme will once again be communicated via our communications team through press releases and social media channels. We will also have posters available for distribution. Due to the timely nature of the scheme, it has been agreed that the scheme will be established with officers' delegated authority. But the team will keep Grants Advisory Committee update on the progression of the scheme. For further information, please feel free to contact myself or Catherine, and our email contact is there, or you can obviously email us at our normal business emails. And that is the end, if you have any questions.
Thank you, Kyra, that was great. Looks like a terrific little scheme, actually. I suspect you're going to be inundated with applications that keep you occupied. You talked about the non-traditional high street in most of our villages. And I'm just looking at my own village of Melbourne, thinking how spread out that is, and it's certainly not 150 metres. And within 150 metres, I can identify 6 shops, so it's not really what you would call a high street. No. It would be handy if that can be really made very obvious to applicants rather than hidden away in the text, so we know that even if we have more than we can cope with, at least everyone felt a fair deal on that. Hand over to my colleagues. Anyone got anything else to say on the subject? Bill?
Thank you. Nicely presented. As Chair said, it looks like an interesting scheme. Could deliver some really good results. And take your point about, you know, my village's got three shops and a pub, and that's it. So let's make sure that everybody, all the parish councils, community groups, understand that that would qualify them to apply. Otherwise, they might say, "Oh, what's the point?" That's exactly what you said, Chair.
I think it's a lovely idea. I wish there was something for Orchard Park, but there isn't. So.
Oh, well. So, yeah, well, perhaps there'll be one day. So that's good. Sue?
Well, it seems to me that it is much needed in our villages, that we have got very little in the way of suitable commercial facilities. And if you look at Northstowe, for example, which might be interesting, and certainly my village, when I moved into it, had 5 butchers and 3 grocery shops, and 2 bakers. We now have 1 grocery shop. End of conversation. And we need to smarten up our village high streets and provide much more varied provision. I don't think we want a bread shop. We want something that covers a wide spectrum of provision when you go in, so it draws more people to the site, and it'll be very interesting to see what comes out of this.
Thank you for your comments. They are noted, and I think, like you all mentioned, it's very important that we get the message across to community groups and parish councils that want to do some work on the high street to bring in that footfall and make our communities and high streets vibrant once again. So thank you for those comments.
Thanks, Colleen. That's really good. Catherine.
Apologies, Chair. Can I just, I think we haven't been quite clear in terms of bringing this paper to committee, that we would look at formally adopting the scheme as policy of the council. Again, for if you get to the bottom of the paper, our recommendation is to also support officer delegation to make the decision on the applications as they come in. Again, we're very short on time. Again, everything with the SBF and Rural England Prosperity Fund, it's taken us. I think the key thing is we need to kind of get the funding out the door to the right places. Again, that we've got a very tight timeline to March 25. Again, we're confident with the scheme. Again, just on the back of Rural England Prosperity Fund, again, we had so many applications. I think we're really confident that we can do it. But again, we're more than happy to, we've discussed that actually we want to work with councillors as well. So when we get applications in, to kind of just talk through some of the aspects of them as well.
Totally understood. So just, thank you for the briefing, and obviously it goes to get council. That's fine. Obviously there are better villages than other villages in South Cambs. Obviously it would be inappropriate for me to mention my village, but anyone can look me up and find out which village I live in. Right, so there you go. And obviously, well, I wouldn't want to say that, but obviously not Orchard Park. It's a different place. Hard luck.
Sorry, through you, Chair. Is Catherine saying that she will kind of collate the information that's received into like a community chest document to come to us, or is she saying we'll go away and just you know, consider them and apply officer discretion?
I think it was the latter. They'll be making approvals, everything, yeah?
I did have a conversation with Councillor John Williams, and he's happy for officer delegation, but he would like us to bring a report to committee, which actually we already had on our list of things to do, because I think actually we're hoping that we'll get some really, really good projects from this. So we, you know, absolutely would want to come and share those.
Yes, that's fine by me. But can you make sure that if a parish applies, that knowledge is passed on to the local member? Because sometimes there's a bit of a communication for it. If you don't know that your village has applied for it, you feel a bit of a Charlie. Sorry, is that okay? Yeah.
Absolutely, and as part of the application, we will be asking for councillors' support, very similar to what we've done with the Rural England Prosperity Fund. And again, if they don't get that, as we've done with the rural, we'll go back and ask for that support as well. Thank you.
So I think in a nutshell, Bill, the officers are going to come to the committee and say, we haven't asked for permission, we just want the forgiveness. That's all it is now. So for any of us who miss out, what can I say? It's their fault. Right, thank you. Catherine, Stephen, Carly, absolutely fabulous. Thank you very much for your time. And if Catherine online is listening, thank you to her too. Thank you to Peter for sticking it out, even though you're from your sick bed, and I'm really grateful for that. Thanks a lot. Thanks to my officer colleagues for running the show, Aaron and Lawrence, and to you three good people rather, and James, I apologise. 4 good people then. I think that's the end of the meeting. Next meeting will be on the 31st of October. What time is that?
That will be usual 1 p.m.
1 p.m. So until then, it's an adieu. See that? A bit French. Right. And to all the members of the public who've been watching again, please ring in, please write. It's such an important process, this, and the officers need the work. So thank you very much indeed, and I'll see you. Goodbye.